Hi, hello, hi, I'm Hunter Moore, and I just listened to Mariah Carey for the first time in a decade. It was not that bad. The National are a band originating in Ohio, now based in New York. This is their sixth full length album. Throughout the album, we find Matt Berninger, frontman, singer, and songwriter, confronting his demons in a multitude of ways, backed by his effervescent band with the two sets of brothers, the Davendorfs and the Dressingers. Some might say that Trouble Will Find Me is a sort of sequel to the band's 2010 album High Violet, which was one of my personal favorites of that year. But I would say that this new album, is more akin to the band's earlier work, like Sad Songs for Dirty Lovers and Alligator. Right from the get-go, we see Berninger returning to kind of his classic form of both lyricism and songwriting, with the song I Should Live in Salt, which kind of takes these tortured lyrics that could either be aimed at maybe a girlfriend or his brother Tom. The song is very repetitive and deliberate, but it never really gets old. It actually sort of reminded me of the opener from High Violet, Terrible Love, which is interesting because Terrible Love sort of developed as sort of a slow burning jam, and I Should Live in Salt is a little bit more hard hitting in its lyricism and its themes. Throughout the album, we find Berninger in a state of vulnerability in his vocal performance. He sounds very tortured throughout the whole thing, especially on this opener. He says, probably close to 30 or 40 times, "You should know me better, you should know me better," to the subject. And he says, "I should live in salt for leaving you behind." There are several points on the album that feel very based in kind of classic balladry. You have songs like Fireproof and Humiliation, where Berninger is talking about how he feels in the face of others and how he wishes he could save people and himself at the same time. And he kind of takes us through these narratives and kind of builds upon this character that he's sort of discussed or taken the form of in previous songs and albums. This character seems very self-deprecating, but he's also very egotistical and maybe a little bit offensive at times. Like on the song Pink Rabbits, he talks about trust and being invisible. He says, "I'm a little white girl on a playground full of white girls," or something like that. And it's very edgy, but it's also kind of unique and poetic, and he's so crazy. He's so crazy. There are a couple points on the album that remind me of that earlier National sound back in the early 2000s that I kind of mentioned before, where there's a lot of folk and country influence, maybe some woodwinds, maybe some slide guitar, specifically the songs This Is the Last Time and Slipped. But the singles on this thing are really what get me. Songs like Demons, Sea of Love specifically, that's probably my favorite on the album, Don't Swallow the Cap, and even a song like Graceless are very reminiscent of that kind of classic National sound that we've kind of all become very used to at this point, on earlier singles, stuff like Blood Buzz Ohio from High Violet, and Fake Empire and Mistaken for Strangers from Boxer. The song Demons almost feels stream of consciousness. It feels like something maybe Holden Caulfield would have written in his diary in Catcher in the Rye. There's a part where Berninger says he's secretly in love with everyone he grew up with, and there's alligators in the sewers, and there's blood and palms and pythons and limbs falling off. And maybe this song is a bit biblical? I don't know. Demons is, demons, God, demons, I don't know. Then you have a song like Don't Swallow the Cap, which is very nostalgic, as are many songs on this album. Berninger seems to be paying homage and sort of reveling in the sentimentality of memories and his past life and everything. He makes several musical references throughout the album, two of which are in the song, one to the Beatles, one to Nirvana, and in other songs he either blatantly or sort of subtly talks about the Violent Femmes, Elliott Smith, Morrissey. And it's interesting to see Berninger and the rest of the band use these references in a less literary sense and more of a sentimental sense. And then you have Sea of Love, which comes around the halfway point. I think it's my favorite song here. It's very anthemic, and it kind of trucks along like a train. It kind of boats along like a helicopter. It kind of dinghies along like a tugboat. It kind of automobiles along like a big vehicle on steroids and flames. In the song, Berninger seems very self-assuring. He makes references to names of people. He says, Joe, sorry I hurt you. But they say love is just a virtue, don't they? In its sonic resonance, it sort of reminds me of a song like Mr. November from their album Alligator. It's very punchy, but it's not without its emotional weight or catchiness. The closer on this album is great too. It's called Hard to Find, and it sort of reminded me of Start a War from Boxer. It's very soft and emotional. Berninger's vocals reminded me of maybe like a early 80s Springsteen. He even goes so far as to reference the Violent Femmes song Kiss Off in the chorus. He says, you can all just kiss off into the air. Overall, I think Trouble Will Find Me will be seen as sort of a sequel to High Violet, but I think I would liken it more to a continuation of the themes that were found on Alligator. Throughout the album, it's really nice to hear some vocal and instrumental contributions from the likes of Annie Clark of St. Vincent, Sufjan Stevens, Sharon Van Etten, and Richard Reed Parry from Arcade Fire. They add some flair to a few of the songs here, and it's just nice to have contributions from people like that, whom I respect a lot. I guess my only gripe would be that sometimes their guest contributions, and even the instrumentation and vocals from the National just aren't mixed super well. The recording quality and the production can seem sort of mushy, but I think that may be just because of the MP3 quality that I heard on the stream. So hopefully on CD and on vinyl, the album will sound more lush. At the end of the day, I'm feeling a 7 out of 10 if I were to score the album. Let me know what you guys want out of this channel. What should I review in the future? Tell me what kinds of things I should do with music or film or whatever. So this has been Trouble Will Find Me by The National. I'm Hunter Moore. I'll see you guys later.
Luke, we're gonna have company!
Luke Wilson, you come here. You've obviously never spent time around anybody. Okay, all right. And then there's Graceless, which is just a clash. It's just some classic.